I think the takeaway from my perspective is that this is a great development. Malta rightfully is asserting its role and authority and its power as a member state to decide who they grant citizenship to.
The Global Passport Investor is your go-to podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Global Passport Investor. My name is Eric Major. I'm the chairman and CEO of Latitude Group, where our clients expect the world and we deliver it. So today I'm here to speak to you about citizenship by merit. This is the talk of the town in certainly our investment migration industry. When on April 29th, the European Court of Justice ruled against Malta's MEIN, its citizenship by investment program, thinking or saying that it was too transactional, that had predetermined amount, and didn't bring enough genuine links to the nation. Applicants didn't have that connection that the Court of Justice felt was necessary to bestow citizenship. So that rocked our industry. Admittedly, the pundits and the experts, both in law and in practice, were expecting a different decision, most particularly given that the Advocate General, the lead judge, had a few months earlier recommended to his fellow judge to rule in favor of Malta. But as it sometimes happened, the rest of the judges coalesced and went against Malta's case and said, obviously, member states, you have control over citizenship matters, but you can't cross that line of making it transactional, and we want to see these applicants having some link to the nation. Well, so be it. Malta's Prime Minister and the government as a whole said, we will oblige to the ruling and make amendments to our citizenship laws to allow a different kind of citizenship by merit. This is under Legal Notice 159 of this year of 2025, which creates the granting of citizenship by naturalization on the basis of merit regulations. This outlines further a rigorous process that will require, and I quote here, that the applicants will have to submit a proposal letter, which would pretty much first provide their backgrounds and their CV, outlining their achievements and their intended exceptional contribution to Malta. Then they would, upon review or receipt of that proposal, it will undergo a review by the evaluation board that's made up of various experts that are empowered by the minister to review the applicant's proposal. They will continue what the agency they had in place, Community Malta, continue to do extensive due diligence, a multi-tiered due diligence. So that doesn't change. They'll continue to use those resources to vet the applicants and their family. And the applicant, beyond whatever great idea they come up with, is also going to have to demonstrate residency and further ties to Malta than maybe would have been previously the case under the old MEIN program. And so they would also have to demonstrate some knowledge of, I guess, one or both, but probably more one of the official languages in Malta, which is English or Maltese, and evidence some form of ties, not just in terms of physical presence, but in terms of, social and economic connection and activity, being on boards and attending different meetings to progress, in this case, maybe their specific projects. And I think this is also very important. It's not a one-off event or one-off transaction or initiative. It's one that has to be framed within the context of what have you done for the nation in the past? What are you doing for the nation now? What are you intending to provide to the nation in the future? This is similar in concept to what Austria, which also runs a citizenship by merit, I won't say program, but has legal provisions to support it. They very much focus also on this notion of it being something done over the past, the present, and a commitment to continuing to provide the contribution in the future. So I suspect that Malta is going to apply that same logic. And typically, when it comes to citizenship by merit, which most countries have some form of this provision, it's in the past been geared towards, athletes and artists and scientists. Albert Einstein left Germany and was granted American citizenship on the basis of such provisions. And why wouldn't he be granted with such an illustrious career and knowledge of science? But you also see a number of countries utilize these provisions typically around the Olympics time where countries are trying to build the best teams in sports, in all types of sports, and so they naturalize people of great exception and talent. And you see this in the case of Austria that has a great musical heritage, history, and culture, where they mint maybe new opera singers and world-class violinists in the sort. But in the case of Austria, and now in the case of Malta, entrepreneurs as well are considered, so long as, again, they make a significant contribution to the nation, and not in one transaction, but over time. So let's be more specific here. I'm reading off my notes to clearly enunciate what Malta is looking for. They're opening this whole citizenship by merit to people in philanthropy, innovators, technologists, and of course entrepreneurs who are going to contribute measurable value to the nation. It basically will be tying their contribution both in terms of who they are, in terms of where their contributions is allocated, and I mean that not necessarily financial. It could be, and many would say, preferably in terms of their time to the project, particularly if they have a particular skill set that's quite unique. So I'm saying that the projects are likely to have both a social and economic element that enhances the social and economic landscape of Malta. It'll have to be high impact. You'll have to see more than just a one-off, but something that would have future benefit as well. Obviously, the project has to be in line with the core values of the country and also the core values and history of the applicant. This is important. If you're a technology guy, it wouldn't necessarily make sense to, although it's possible, but it wouldn't correlate that you make a donation or contribute to a social matter if your skills are really in a unique technology or innovation space. They would expect you to continue that. So it's really important, certainly for practitioners who are going to support clients with this, that they make it fit and it makes sense in terms of who their client or the applicant is and their background and how it's being directed to the project at hand. It has to be aligned with current government policies and their priorities. Maybe a little bit easier in Malta with a two-party system. You got your Labour Party and your Nationalist Party. But in Austria, where historically always have these coalition government, that could be a little bit harder. In Austria, they assess these applicants for citizenship by merit twice a year, typically in the mid-year in June, July, and then at the end of the year. And it's a cabinet. And so you could have, a communist MP sitting next to a far-right MP, sitting to a liberal, opining on these cases. So it has to be across the political spectrum, a project that all political persuasions would be interested in and find it would be of strong value to the nation. So it does have to cross favorably all party lines, certainly in the case of Austria, where that could be sometimes a little harder. But not so if the projects are indeed deemed of national interest. So I guess the best way to kind of paint a picture for this is maybe to give you an example. If, for example, if an applicant had a particular skill set and expertise in nuclear medicine, for example? And maybe could they be interested in expanding the nuclear-based instruments that are available at Mater Dei Hospital, which is the lead general hospital in Malta? Um, so what can that mean? Well, that means maybe the applicant would be part of the board that's dealing with the procurements of those nuclear based instruments. They could be themselves contributing to the acquisition of those equipments. They could be sharing their skills and knowledge around operating that equipment, and effectively helping Malta develop an expertise around this type of necessary medicine. So that's maybe an example that we would see, certainly have seen in other countries, but I think what Malta is going to develop over time is, they'll be flagging these projects of national interest that otherwise could be difficult to fund with its tax base, and maybe make those projects available for those foreign nationals who have a particular skill set that links and connects to those national priorities, and obviously have the means to contribute, but not just in money, but also in time. Because again, the European Court of Justice was clear. Person has to have some link to the nation and has to have a contribution well beyond a transactional amount. So let me be clear, this is a different beast than the old citizenship by investment. Not that Malta ever had any significant amount of scale in its old CBI program. What is it? At best, maybe 350 application, most times well below 300 applications a year. Each application has spouse and children. So, roughly 1,000 people were granted citizenship in Malta each and every year. I wouldn't call that scale, even for an island nation of 500,000 people. But still, the European Court of Justice and the European Commission didn't like it. They won their day in court. Malta has to adjust. And the CBM will clearly have less scale to it because it really will require this linkage and connectivity to a person's skill and background and means to a particular project that fits well. So this is really the key element. So the consequence is that the process is going to be a lot more selective. It's going to be more personal, going to be more demanding. Um, there won't be any checklists in the sense of you got to do A, B, C, D, and then get what the program provides. It's going to be very subjective, and that's maybe the one side of this that I don't like. In our business, objectivity is what makes it predictable. If you do A, B, C, you get D. There won't be any of that. You really have to do your homework, or the client will, with the help of firms like Latitude that have, in our case, over 15, last I checked, employees there that are Maltese, know the landscape, have the networks and the connections to understand what makes Malta tick, what are the government priorities and the projects of national interest. And we intend, Ryan Darmanin and I, Ryan is our COO, but also the managing director of that office, to get close to these projects, understand what the government is looking for, and seeing whether we could mesh these important projects of national interest with foreign nationals that have the skill set and have the means to bring the project to fruition. So it's not just about money, it's about vision, it's about engagement on the client side and contribution, both financial and in time and in knowledge. Um, I think, as I said, there was always. I'm glad they've kept this role for Community Malta to do the DD. So it's still going to be, unlike other nations in Europe that bestow citizenship by descent or by marriage without any degree of significant or any degree of DD. They rightfully have kept the role of Community Malta to do the tiered DD to ensure that these applicants are meritorious and worthy and have no issues of concern in the public domain. Um, so that's good, and so that will ensure the integrity of the and the sustainability of the program, or of the provisions, I should say, and obviously the integrity of what Malta is trying to achieve. I think the takeaway from my perspective is that this is a great development. Malta rightfully is asserting its role and authority and its power as a member state to decide who they grant citizenship to. That's what every member state has, and they've asserted that through a channel that other nations, including in Europe, including Austria and others, have, adding it for, again, philanthropists, innovators, technologists, and entrepreneurs, and being specific about that, being specific about that process of proposal letter being evaluated by the board, completing a multi-tiered due diligence, and establishing those ties, both physical and time and involvement with the project itself, with the sense of past, present, and future ongoing obligations to the nation. Um, but um, it will lead to some subjectivity, and it will lead to a lesser number of applications without doubt. I don't know if it's going to be 30 a year or 100 a year, but it will not surpass what in the best year would have been 350 applications on the MEIN. So it's still going to be quite exclusive in that respect, in the same way it is in Austria, to be fair. But listen, I'm really excited that Malta has decided to take this route. It's a great jurisdiction. It's safe. They speak English rule of law, Mediterranean lifestyle, and a beautiful part of the world. Great weather, great people, great food. I'm really glad and pleased that clients who want to consider European citizenship this way will get to know and connect with Malta. So all in all, a good development, maybe not with the same degree of scale, certainly not as objective, more subjective than before, but it's the right policy uh, tack and decision by the government for sure to assert its authority in the citizenship space. So I applaud the government of Malta from that perspective, and also keeping the key ingredients mostly around process and due diligence. I think final thought on this whole topic is, and I've made reference to this in other podcasts. So while it may seem that European citizenship is tightening, and there's talk of extending the journey for people to naturalize, right? In Italy, it's already 10. There was an attempt of a referendum to reduce it to 5. It failed. So politically, Italy's saying, no, Italy has to be earned over a 10-year period to naturalize. In Greece, it's 7 years. In Portugal, we know it's 5, but we also know that this new government is looking to review that and possibly extending it to 10 years, again, making it harder. Here in the UK, well, they're talking about settlement, which is indefinite leave to remain, which is permanent residency as the first stepping stone to then acquiring citizenship. Well, they're looking to extend that as well. At least there's talk about that in their white paper. So not just in America, but all throughout Europe, there's this idea of migration and is getting harder, even highly sought migration. The processes are tightening up. The journey to naturalizations are getting longer, and we may be feeling, well, there's not that many options, save and except if you pick up your bags and move to these places. And that would be a fair assessment in my mind. Although Austria has citizenship by merit, Malta is developing it. I'm sure Portugal will also continue to have some pathway. It's going to require a little bit more commitment, and that's the takeaway, really. I think that one has to expect, certainly for Europe, to first become a resident, hopefully very quickly after that become a permanent resident, and after that very quickly be able to have this pathway to citizenship. My hope, and I think there's opening in the policy minds of Malta to look at their very successful Malta permanent resident program, which provides permanent residence, just as it says on the tin. You get that residence card in fairly short order if you meet the government regulations and requirements when you apply, including getting an address and a residence. And you get that 5-year PR card. Hopefully, could there be made some provisions around somebody who chose that route? What is that pathway to citizenship? Because right now it's unclear. And in fact, most people would say residency programs in Malta don't give you citizenship until 12, 14, 15 plus years on average. So maybe could the policymakers in Malta look at that and say, how do we define very specifically somebody comes through that or other residency routes, define clearly to that audience what the journey entails in terms of physical presence, in terms of contribution, in terms of understanding of the social fabric, maybe a citizenship exam, obviously questions around their language, adaptability, do they speak English or Maltese, et cetera, et cetera. But make that clear. And if it's competitive to, for example, as good as what Portugal has done for the last decade, which is only 7 days a year and fulfill an investment and pass an exam, a language exam. If it's as simple as that, then you'll see a lot of people apply for it. And we all know Portugal has been extremely successful with that provision, which was not too taxing in terms of physical presence. But that too, I think, is being put to challenge in general in Europe, but also in light of the European Court of Justice decision. So I think one shouldn't bank too much on that, but still define it. That's my point. Define what that journey is. Don't keep it unsaid or unspecified, so that if it's defined clearly, people know that if I take that route and I do what the provisions allow and say for citizenship, then some will decide to do it and some won't. But that's maybe where we'll see some progression in Europe. Residency programs, golden visas, as the media calls them, are here to stay. You will never stop a nation from trying to raise FDIs, foreign direct investment, and capital to their economy in any way, shape, or form, let alone via immigration. And everyone would generally agree that that's a smart thing to do. It's all about how you frame it. So I don't see that changing. But if the prize is citizenship, my ask and what I'm hoping we'll see develop over time is make that definition, make that pathway clear. And I think there's an opportunity there for Malta. There's an opportunity for Portugal to also adjust it in light of the dynamics that are currently prevailing in Europe. And frankly, maybe for other European countries that also have all these different type of golden visas or residence visas or independent means visas or retirement visas to be very clear on that pathway. That's my hope in the months and years ahead. I hope you agree. And for whatever your needs are when it comes to international residency and citizenship solutions, Latitude is here to help you, is here to guide you through the maze of what's out there in the world. We as a firm are offering over 30 jurisdictions for both residency and citizenship, and assist hundreds of clients each and every year to walk through the maze of government policy and provisions, legal provisions, to get you to where you're looking to go. Whether it's a plan B, just a what if security or insurance policy of being able to go somewhere if something changes, or an actual plan A, migration. You're picking up your bags with your family, moving to a Canada or a UK or to a Portugal or to New Zealand. All of that, we could help. We invite you to contact us, www.latitudeworld.com. And stay tuned for future editions of the Global Passport Investor. I'll be doing further updates on the citizenship by merit in Malta as we see it evolve in the weeks and months ahead, but also in Austria, where we have a few cases right now waiting for a decision. So stay tuned for that. And thank you again for joining me today, and look forward to have you join us at the next Global Passport Investor. Thank you. For a deep dive into the recommended residency and citizenship programs available, please check out latitudeworld.com for further details.